Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for stopping by again. This is going to be a relatively brief video, at least I trust it will be. And for me, brief can mean 5 minutes, so you never know. Simply put, coronavirus is a big topic, a big issue now, and a couple people have written and asked about it. One of the benefits of being in Latin America is that you're isolated in many ways. If you look at the global map, you realize that most of the problem associated with this virus is in the northern section of the northern hemisphere. That is China, Korea, Japan, across the U.S., and Italy now, Europe, and so on. These are substantial distances from Panama. Now, it's not that it isn't going to get here. Of course, it can and will eventually get here if it's a pandemic, of course. But it's going to be a little slower. We have no direct flights from the areas that have the heavy infestations of this disease, and that certainly helps a great deal. Like China, for example, we only had one flight that came from Beijing to Houston, and then that's a standard flight they had, and they simply added another leg on to come down here to Panama. Well, they dropped that leg as soon as the problem popped up, and they've already told us they're not going to be running it for at least another month, and as long as necessary. So we have nothing from them. Korea, which is another very active center of the disease at the moment. There are no direct flights here, as with China. I mean, fundamentally, they're going to have to go through Los Angeles to get here. They'll be getting off the plane. They'll be getting on another plane. They'll be getting checked. It's a long ways. It's an expensive trip. People do it because they do business down here. But you can be sure that they are not as great in number as would be true otherwise, and they are well checked. They can't get here directly, and that's the big thing as far as I'm concerned. As far as Europe is concerned, they're just beginning to show sizable numbers in the dozens in different countries. It is Italy that, unfortunately, that has the big outbreak, and not only in Italy, but in northern Italy, which is the more prosperous economy, and whose people are more likely to be traveling internationally. Now, Italy and Panama have been friends for a long time, and we have a very definitely sizable and growing Italian community here in Panama City. Over the last decade, they really have increased in number, and we're happy to have them here. We'll never have a shortage of Italian food here, and that's wonderful. But oddly enough, well, I don't think it's odd. I don't think Alitalia has a lot of extra money on hand for these things, but we have no direct flight from Rome, or Milan for that matter. But we have no direct flight from Italy that comes into Panama, which is a little unusual. With the size of the community here, you would really think so, but as I say, I don't know why we don't, but my guess is that for Alitalia, it's just too much on an already strained budget. So whatever the case may be, most of the Italians I talk to are members who come in that way, tend to come through Amsterdam or Paris. They can go through New York, they can go through Madrid, there are other places they can go through, but the ones I've spoken to at least have primarily been through those airports. Wherever they go, they too have to stop, get out of the plane, get tested on the way in, get tested on the way out as they get into a different plane that then takes them all the way down here to Panama. And of course, we check people that come in down at this end. So this is a lot different than when you live in a country where people just fly directly from the infected area, so to speak. And there's slightly more of a chance, perhaps, of someone getting through that than someone who has to go sort of run the gauntlet twice in a row in order to get into a country. So does not mean we're not going to have it. If it's a pandemic, we're going to get it. It's going to come eventually. But I'm just trying to stress the fact that Latin America is not a big area at the moment after all this time. I just checked the statistics out of the Johns Hopkins the medical school has a very good update every almost on a hourly basis here of the outbreak globally. And in Latin America, we only have 6 people who've been infected, and 2 of them in Brazil and 4 of them in Mexico. And of those 6, 3 I think were added today. So I mean, they're very recent. That's a drop in the bucket. Those 2 countries together have over 300 million people, which is roughly the size of the United States. So 6 people is not very much. And the U.S. doesn't have a lot more, but it has 10 times more than that. It's 60-some. So it just gives you an indication. And no other Latin American country has so much as one. Now, it will happen. So I would consider myself a complete idiot if I came out here and said, oh, we will never get it here. Of course we will, eventually. But it's at least a reasonable possibility of it being very delayed, which is always good, and because, more research, more knowledge of how to deal with it, it builds up through the unfortunate efforts elsewhere where people have the problem. And because when it does, we'll be as prepared as we can possibly be. Now, I don't ever try to make a prediction of these things. It's just typical of Europe, North America, and the Pacific Rim of Asia. Everything's political these days. We don't see it. I certainly don't see it that way at all. I'm not interested in that. As to whether this is real or not, I think it's quite obvious that there's something going on. I've worked in public health in the past, and there's something going on, and it's serious, and they are dealing with it. How serious and how far it will go is something that you can only guess, and I'm not in that business of guessing. So I would just say that, well, do we have a real pandemic? And the answer is, we'll know in a matter of months, if not weeks, probably, and not that many weeks, we're going to know what we're dealing with, because it will, if it is a pandemic, it will spread. Now, thankfully, a very high proportion of these people don't actually, I think it's about 20% who don't have any indication that they have the disease at all. They have no idea they've got it. And another large percentage that has a mild cold, and another group that has sort of a flu-like reaction, a standard flu. But about 20-25% of those I have heard of so far have actually been considered for hospitalization. So it's an odd disease in that sense. It's not how most of them are broken down. And what's particularly unusual is the large number of people who can have the virus and pass it right through and live with it and so forth without any indication at all that they have it. Unfortunately, they're infectious at that point, which is what makes this particular virus more likely to spread and spread quickly, and which is what causes a great deal of concern. So having said all that, I'm going to leave it up to nature, God, and everyone else to let us know, what is the future holds. I can't tell you. It wouldn't affect my international travel at this stage. If someone were to ask me, you have to make up your own mind. But I really, if you're coming down soon, I doubt very seriously it's going to come roaring into town anytime soon. I wouldn't worry too much about it. On the other hand, I feel guilty whenever I say that, for fear, we'll have a case tomorrow morning and everybody will go, oh my God, here it is, and so forth. But seriously, I think we have more to fear from you than you have from us. Okay. And we are doing our best. And, we're not backward here. We're going to deal with this when it comes time. And people do keep up to date on it. We're very, very much aware of it. So it's there. It's real. I will take this down and put a new one up if I've got enough information to go on to some other stage of discussion. But as far as I'm concerned at this point in time, we're well aware of it. We keep a very careful eye on it. We have none of it yet. And hopefully that day, whenever it comes in very tiny amounts and goes away quickly. We'll hope that for you and your nation and everybody else as well. Thanks. That's all I really needed to say tonight. And let's just, God bless everybody. We get through this messy little nonsense as soon and as well as possible. So good health to you.